Deadpool and Wolverine coming out of the gate with guns a-blazing. No surprise, but maybe even a little bit more surprising than we thought that surprise would be. Now turning in what is said to be a $35 to $40 million Thursday night preview open. This is going to turn into potentially a near $200 million opening weekend. We're going to have a lot to discuss on the box office come Sunday. Stay tuned, but for right now, let's give you the information you need.
Renegade Online.
But yeah, first things first, though, I want to talk a little bit about the box office here because I'm not, and look, I know there's a lot of pixie dust trolls out there. I see y'all all the time on X. Trust me, okay? I want to make very clear what I'm about to say, and that is this. Deadpool and Wolverine is doing great. This is definitely a huge win for Marvel, the likes of which they have not had in over 5 years, or right about 5 years. But it's not holding on the way I thought it would. Particularly, I think, maybe on the international side. I thought by the end of this weekend, with an entire 7 days, we're now 10 days into release for this film. And after the first 3 days, we had about $440 million. I thought we would, at minimum, worst case scenario, be 2x by the end of this weekend. But a lot of us out there, and I think Odin as well, OMB reviews, our buddy Odin, I mean, even he was saying $1 billion by the end of the second weekend, if I'm not mistaken. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think he was on that bandwagon. I think Pro was, I was. It didn't happen. It leveled off at about 824. And as far as my understanding goes, this is inclusive of the estimates for the international box office through this weekend. So it's at 824 right now, which is amazing. It's still excellent. After 10 days in release, it's still great. But it's slowing down a little bit more and a little bit faster than I thought it might. And if this holds right now, I think this movie probably will level off somewhere in the vicinity of about $1.2 billion, which is still very good. And that would give it close to almost a 3x from opening weekend of $440 million global. It'll finish off somewhere around a 3x, which is something that a Marvel movie really hasn't done in forever. Not a big one, because there really haven't been many big ones. Most of the Marvel movies have been going gangbusters first weekend, and then they fall off a cliff. To be clear, Deadpool and Wolverine, a 54% drop from the opening weekend, which, considering the enormity of its opening weekend at $211 million, a 54% drop is very admirable. A 54% drop for a $100 million opening weekend would be admirable. Not amazing, but admirable. For a $200 million opening weekend, 211, This is a very good hold. It seems to me, and I've got to dig into it a little bit more, but it seems to me that the international box offices maybe haven't been holding up quite as well. Because, like I said, I thought the international markets would have driven this a little bit harder, at least up closer to $900 million by the end of this weekend, but it's at 824. So it's under my expectations, but not a lot. Not huge, but it's a little under. And I thought this was a movie that, given its gargantuan opening, probably would get to maybe close to $1.5 billion. I don't know if that's going to happen now. That's why I'm thinking 1.2, considering the roll-off here. But there's more competition coming, and that competition, namely Alien Romulus. And you're thinking, well, Valiant, it's Alien Romulus versus Dead. It's not going to... I get that. But Alien Romulus is still going to consume here, not this coming week, but the following week. Alien Romulus is going to consume the very lucrative, more expensive PLF and IMAX screens. So Deadpool has this week and this coming weekend, and then 4 days into the following week to really make another big push before it loses a lot of those higher-priced, more lucrative premium screens. I don't know. What do you think, Pro? Where do you think this movie's going to wind up?
I've got a theory about this one, and I'm going to be a little bit more optimistic, but not much. I think domestically, this is performing exactly as you would expect, and as you can see in that graph, we're sitting almost dead center in the predictions.
That's what I say. Domestic, I'm okay with domestically.
Yeah.
Internationally, it's leaving me a little bit wanting because, again, last weekend we had, I think the international box office finished with about 230 million, 230, 240, somewhere. I think we're somewhere around there. It's up at 428 after another 7 days. So I was hoping to see that number a little bit higher, closer to 500 on the international side.
So I think that this film is going to land somewhere between 1.3 and 1.4. And that's about where I had anticipated that it would go to. What I think is happening internationally is this. I think that the Olympics are actually having an impact on this because the Olympics are taking place in the same time frame in the evenings in Europe that and live, by the way, because they're in Paris, when men would be going to watch the movies. And I think that internationally, the Olympics are a much bigger deal, and especially this year, than they are domestically. However, to bring it back to Deadpool and Wolverine, internationally, I do think that the international numbers are being affected by the Olympics. Yeah. And I suspect that it will, I think that it will actually, over the next weeks, even itself back out, get somewhere between 1.3, 1.4, become the biggest R-rated film in box office history. But I'll tell you something, and I don't know if you'd planned to talk about this. The real loser here, and I've had some pushback on X about this, the real loser at the box office right now is shockingly Twisters. So, and the reason being is because they have decided to put that out now onto digital streaming this month. Yeah. Now, Twisters held on with an amazing 35% drop this weekend. And folks out there have said, well, you know, it doesn't matter. It's not going to eke out anything this month anyway, so just put it on digital. It's like, no, actually, if you have these kinds of drops, you're talking about the potential of losing out on $50 million for the month of August by switching it to digital.
Yeah, I agree. And look, to your point, and I'm glad you mentioned this because I did want to talk about this because I saw this. I have not seen
been holding on
yet either. I've not been to the theater to see either Deadpool or Twisters, although somehow I managed to see Deadpool. I don't know what happened.
This movie should have
somebody
pancaked.
Put the whole movie on YouTube. Okay, kids. Somebody put the whole, and it took Disney 24 hours to get it removed. Like they didn't know, but the whole Deadpool movie was on YouTube. I just
but by golly, you put 3 seconds of the Olympic Last Supper on there, and they'll have you down in a sec. Yeah,
my Olympic boxer video, I had to reload it 3 times because of frickin' Comcast. I was so pissed, and it was completely transformative, and the clips were short. But anyway, that being said, let's look at what in this case a 35% drop looks like. It's still 22.6 million. This weekend. It fell from 34.9 to 22.6. And that's with Deadpool screaming along. This is a movie that a lot of people really like. So yes, for this to be released on streaming this quickly, I think is a grave error. And this is being distributed by Universal. And that is exactly, I think, part of the problem. Let me explain, because you brought something up. I'm going to tell you why I think Universal is doing this.
Well, let me toss this in, and then you go. I think that I think they anticipated what we all did. I think they pre-planned this because they believed that Deadpool and Wolverine was going to pancake this movie, and that didn't happen.
Pre-planning it, yeah, but they can change that on a dime because it's their own streaming service. I'm going to tell you what I think is going on here. And to some respects, I kind of understand this. So this movie was released July 19th, okay? What is the exact release date in August on Peacock for this? Do we know? I don't remember. I know I saw it was going to be August. I don't remember the date. Look that up for me if you can. Yeah. So here's the deal. Right now, for the next, week and a half, Peacock right now, Universal's streaming service, is seeing the most viewership and subscriptions that it's seen in probably ever, right? The NFL on NBC was a big help, live sporting events, the Olympics right now. they're getting a lot of new eyeballs that have never been on the Peacock app before to watch the Olympics. If you are Universal and you have a very beloved movie in theaters right now that you basically funded and you distributed, ergo, you have complete autonomy over, you might be very tempted to potentially sacrifice some revenue there to get some major advertising. Stick around on Peacock. Hey, we know you're still watching in August for the Olympics. You signed a subscription up for August, okay? We want to give you some fresh content before your subscription runs out because we want you to renew for September and keep going. Here's Twisters. I think that's why Universal is doing this. I think they're doing it.
I just got this, Valiant. It's August 13th, and I want to thank all of the websites that I clicked on that use artificial intelligence, which is all of them now.
Yeah,
all of them use artificial intelligence, which means I had to read about 7 useless paragraphs of backstory written by AI to finally find this. But yes, later part of August.
Okay, you said the 13th?
Yeah, early August. Sorry, mid-August.
So it will not have even been in theaters for 30 days. So
correct.
The theaters are going to kick them square in the nuts for that. They are not going to get the full payout, at least not in the U.S. So, we talk about 55%. So let's look at this. $200 million, let's call it. So normally they'd be taking home around $105 million of that, $110 million of that. They ain't going to get that. They are not going to get 55%, putting it onto Peacock less than 30 days since theatrical exclusivity. And all these theater chains, especially the big ones like AMC, they have these things in the contracts. Hey, you can back out. If you don't give us exclusivity, you get this. If you put it into theaters and you pull it after 17 days, you're only going to get paid this. If you do it before 30 days, you're only going to get this. So they know going in what they're doing. So they're going to take a punch. Now, they're probably not going to pull it internationally. There's no reason to, because Peacock doesn't really have any exposure outside of the U.S. as far as the streaming service goes. But domestically, instead of getting 50%, maybe they get paid 45. Or instead of 55, they get 45 or 40. We saw what happened to Warner Brothers when they jacked theaters in 2021 with Project Popcorn. They got paid like 30% of the gate because 35%, it was extremely low. So that means that Universal is going to sacrifice maybe $20 or $30 million of theatrical revenue in order to put it on Peacock. And guess what? The closing ceremony of the Olympics will begin at 2 p.m. Eastern on August 11th. They're releasing Twisters on Peacock 2 days later. I guarantee you, most of the commercials on Peacock, or a fair bit of them, if you're watching the Olympics on Peacock and they cut to a commercial break, you're going to see tons of commercials to stick around on Peacock and watch this movie when it releases after the Olympics.
And here's a twist for you. Strange, but a twist. August 30th, Twisters will return to theaters, but only 50 of them. It'll be going to 40X theaters. There are only 50 of these in North America.
Yeah.
And they are basically the motion simulator kind of theaters out there. Not many of them highly concentrated in tourist locations, but go get the Twisters experience of having your seat vibrate underneath you as the tornadoes suck up those first stars. And if you've seen Twisters already, you know what I'm talking about. You're very happy for the first deaths to happen because it lets you know that you're not going to be stuck with the cast of Velma for the entire thing.
And here's the other thing. If this hits on August 13th on Peacock, and it's because on August 16th, again, Deadpool and Wolverine are going to get pushed back a little bit to make space for Alien Romulus. That means Twister is going to be in the third chair, which is basically the crap chair. So I think Universal probably understands that the bulk of the revenues coming in are going to happen, whatever's left of them, between in the next 7 days, the next 7 to 10 days. and then they're going to be fighting a war on two fronts with Deadpool and Alien Romulus. Twisters is probably going to be done.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.